Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Monsters of the Mind. As always, I'm your host, Mr.G. So, it's been a while, hasn't it? Sorry, I was caught up with those two big projects, so the smaller stuff kind of got away from me, so sorry. Let's just get back to business. Today, we're discussing life on the red planet, Mars, our planetary neighbor, next goal for space travel, and possibly a second homeworld if we manage to do something, I don't know. Mars has long fascinated mankind. Not only is it much closer than other planets, not only does its red coloration really make it stand out, but for the longest time, people were convinced that Mars had some sort of complex life on it. You see, before space travel and observation took off, Mars and Venus were really popular places to imagine life in the solar system to be, since both were a good distance away from the sun, unlike Mercury, which is right next to the sun and is therefore obviously way too scorching for life, and the outer planets, which are way too cold. Venus, Earth, and Mars are in like the perfect place, not too hot, not too cold, and as such, people wondered if our neighbors could harbor life. People thought that maybe under Venus' clouds were sprawling jungles teeming with life, and Mars could have some sort of society somewhere on it. But unfortunately, more advanced space observation technology dashed any hopes of these thoughts, when it turned out that Venus' clouds are full of sulfuric acid, and it was so hot that even metal can't survive on its surface, and Mars was found to be completely desolate. Now, whether or not Mars ever had any sort of life on it is still up for debate. Point is, today, Mars has no life, but in the world of fiction, Mars is a popular place to put alien life forms, both because of how it used to be a popular place for life, and also because it's believably close to Earth, so you don't have to question how the aliens know about a planet from a different solar system, or how they got there so fast, things like that. And today, I'll be highlighting 3 different pieces of media and their take on Mars, starting with the book that made life on Mars a famous idea, War of the Worlds. In this book, Martians are attacking Earth for their resources as the red planet is running out of its own. Their weaponry is far superior to Earth, so they quickly manage to overpower us. And then, they basically take over England, where they capture any humans they see, and in general, life is now miserable. A resistance is created, but then, Martians are just found dead. You see, the Martians had contracted Earth-borne viruses and bacteria, and since their planet lacked pathogens of any sort, they were super vulnerable to them, and quickly got wiped out. So, the Earth is saved, but everybody knows that life really won't be able to go back to normal after this. This book popularized Martians as a concept, but notably, it's one of those things that popularized a thing, but the thing it popularized ended up looking a lot different from its inspiration. I'm sorry, did that make sense? Anyway, the Martians do not fly in disc-shaped ships, but rather these awesome-as-heck cylindrical things with tentacles that can walk. Also, they're not humanoid. They're squid-like creatures that had trouble walking outside their suits because of Earth's higher gravity. And also, despite the title, the war is very much one-sided, as the Martians' technology is so superior that literally nothing can scratch it. So instead of the Martians being defeated in some grand dramatic battle, where the humans finally manage to overpower the invaders, they instead go out rather pitifully by being exposed to something they have no immunity to. It's not even any indication it was human-caused. They just succumb to the environment. As stated, this book basically invented the alien invasion genre, and it's been adapted many times over the years. There's even a radio broadcast of the story, which is rumored to have caused mass hysteria, but not really. It's complicated to explain. So yeah, the story where Martians kicked our butts before they died of sickness. Pretty cool. Now, the next Martians we'll be looking at is how Martians are portrayed in DC Comics. In DC, there's 2 main races of Martians, green and white. They have basically the same powers and abilities, but they have very different philosophies. Green Martians are peaceful, while the white Martians are very violent and aggressive. Their Martians, regardless of their race, both possess the same powers. They can fly, go fast, and their main abilities are their ability to read minds and their shape-shifting powers. But they're weak to fire. Yes, really. Well, initially. You see, eventually it was revealed that their weakness to fire was completely psychoschematic, which is basically a phenomenon where if you believe something will happen, then it'll actually happen if you do the thing that'll cause the thing. Let me put it like this. Basically, if I tell you that if you drink water upside down, you'll start sneezing, if you believe that hard enough, you'll start actually sneezing. So, since they believed they were weak to fire, they actually started becoming weak to it. So this weakness ended up becoming null and void eventually, once this came to light. Anyway, DC's main Martian representative is one Martian Manhunter, real name J'onn J'onzz. He's kind of difficult to talk about since he doesn't really have a consistent backstory. Actually, in general, consistency is a problem that plagues him. I don't know what it is about this guy, but writers keep flip-flopping on pretty much everything about him. What his backstory is, if J'onn J'onzz is even his real name, what his true form is, things like that. But anyways, in most versions of the character, J'onn is the last Martian after the others died out, so now he lives on Earth where he takes the identity of a human name, well, J'onn J'onzz. Spelled differently, but basically pronounced the same. Anyways, he became a superhero. You know how it is. John's most notable role in the comic is the fact that he was initially a founding member of the Justice League, but in more later versions of the team, he's been replaced by Cyborg, so that's a thing. This caused quite a stir in the fandom, and who is more deserving to be a core member has been highly debated. Oh, fun fact, this debate is the reason why in the superhero arc, I just split the difference and made both their equivalents members of the Justice League analog. That's just a fun fact for you. Anyways, in other media, John hasn't really appeared anywhere near as much as basically every other one of these guys. They usually have their own TV shows, films, video games, things like that, but John, he's always a secondary character in these things. Yeah. He was in the 90s Justice League cartoon and its follow-up Unlimited. Actually, in general, if the Justice League appeared prior to Cyborg replacing him, then he was gonna be there. But he did make a notable appearance in the extended cut of Justice League, so he did appear on the big screen at least. So yeah, this guy, he's always second banana. Never the main character, always a secondary. You know what they say, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Also, he likes Oreos. I didn't know where to put that, but yeah, he loves Oreos. Finally, we come to the Looney Tunes. This one's gonna be tricky, since Looney Tunes isn't known for having deep lore, since, you know, it's the definition of a cartoon, so one series doesn't have connections to another series and things like that. So instead of talking about Looney Tunes Martians in general, we'll be talking about the most famous of them, Marvin. Yes, Marvin the Martian. He's a short humanoid creature, wearing Spartan-esque armor. Notably, he has no mouth, but despite that, he has a pretty deep voice. His most famous attribute is his short temper, as he can quickly go from calm and reserved to trying to disintegrate you. Marvin was created as part of an attempt to pit Bugs Bunny against more threatening foes, as the team working on the short started to feel bad for his usual foe Elmer Fudd, as the way Bugs would often massively outsmart and outclass the hunter was starting to come off as Bugs bullying him, especially since, besides being a hunter, there's nothing really villainous about Elmer. He just wanted to hunt his dang wabbit, but the wabbit kept always outsmarting him and making him look like a fool. So it was decided to pit Bugs against foes who were more overtly villainous so that people would stop feeling bad for the people he played tricks on. Marvin was one such character created because of this, and he debuted in 1948's Haredevil Hare. Here, Bugs goes to the moon and encounters Marvin, who wants to blow up the Earth just because. Anyway, Bugs thwarts his plan by causing all but a sliver of the moon to blow up, leaving him and Marvin dangling from the now crescent moon. Anyways, this set up the formula for most Marvin appearances. He wants to destroy Earth, often for either no reason or for very petty reasons, like how he once tried to destroy the Earth because it blocked his view of Venus, but he always gets thwarted by usually Bugs Bunny. However, notably, in his first appearance, Marvin had a different voice. He was still played by the same voice actor, legendary Mel Blanc, who played most of the Looney Tunes, but instead of the lower-pitched voice we know today, it was more nasally. Also, he wasn't given a name in the short, or any of the classic shorts. And I don't just mean he wasn't named in the cartoons, but he was named in the promotions or title cards or credits. No. He just straight up did not have a name during this time. Even on the model sheets, he was called Antwerp instead of actually given a real name. It wasn't until he started getting merchandise during the 70s that he was finally called Marvin, which is the name that has stuck ever since. Despite his actually limited appearance in the Golden Age, only appearing in 5 cartoons, Marvin would ultimately become a mainstay of the franchise, appearing in most every Looney Tunes project in some way since then. Some of his most notable roles are that he was the antagonist in a series of Nike commercials that were direct inspiration for Space Jam, and in that movie he was the referee of the basketball game, which is a cute detail since it's a game between Looney Tunes and aliens, and he's both a Looney Tune and an alien. I like that. And back in action, Marvin appears as a major antagonist, and he played a major role in the series Duck Dodgers. There were also plans for a solo movie featuring him, but it got scrapped because Warner Brothers is terrible at keeping the Looney Tunes relevant. They either try to make the original cartoons again, but more watered down, or they just keep canceling any sort of project that sounds even remotely good. Coyote versus Acme. Also, he's playable in multiverses, I guess. So that's Martians for you. I guess it makes sense that Mars is where aliens come from, but I can't help but wonder, I wish we could get aliens from other planets more often. Maybe we could have aliens that were built for the more struggling life forms of other planets. Like, can you imagine what an alien that would manage to live on Venus would look like? That'd be awesome. But Mars is still where the aliens come from. Who knows what the future will bring for Martian appearances? Maybe one day we'll find conclusive proof that Mars used to have life or something like that. Or maybe we'll find Europa has true life on it, and then aliens will start coming from there. Well, I've been Mr. G, and see you guys later. I can't think of a good way to end this video. Goodbye.